Hey guys, welcome back to the channel and welcome back to another City of Champions. We have just finished year 9, I believe. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Yeah, we just finished year 9. We did win another championship. It was not with the team in front of you, the Minnesota Vikings, although we did have a very good season with the Vikings. See, we went 11-6. We had the top highest scoring offense in the NFL. It was our defense this year. We'll take a look at the team in a minute. But we did win a title, so we won our 4th title. So we are exactly 50% of the way through this attempt, which is 12 titles in 18 years. We are at 4 titles through 9 seasons. Just a ton of regular season success. Not so much in the postseason, though. So let's take a look at the Vikings. So we lost in the NFC Championship game this season. You can see we lost to the San Francisco 49ers 26-20 in overtime at home in the NFC title game, and the Cleveland Browns went on to win the World Series. So it was a good year for us. If we we'll look at stats first, and then we'll look at our roster. And the big addition to the team was a wide receiver. So John Anderson had his best season as a starting quarterback for us. This was his, second full season with us, third full season. 38 touchdowns, career high, 4,300 yards, a career high, passer rating of 102.1. He was terrific this year. He really, really was terrific. So we have him signed for, I think, 1 more year. 2 more years at $24 million. It's a lot of money, but he has been very good. He was very good this year. So John Anderson finally getting it done. Running game, we signed Jeffrey Spence, and he got outperformed by Frank Dew, who continues to lead us. Dew has been really good since Dalvin Cook retired. He's now 30 years old, another 1,000-yard season. Spence wasn't terrible. I mean, 158. I mean, the yards per attempt were a little bit less than Dew, but I mean, ultimately, he had a pretty good season. The single biggest acquisition we made this year was Denver Betts. I mean, you look at that season: 101 receptions, 1,394 yards, 21 receiving touchdowns for Denver Betts. And he's somebody that I tried to get last year. And you look at his overall, it's not that great. It's a 78 overall. But if you look at Betts, he's got a 91 speed and a 92 hands. He just works. He just works in the lineup. And it's good because Justin Jefferson, his numbers were down, but that's because he got hurt. Yeah, he got hurt. He only played in 15 games this year, only started 10. But had 80 more receptions for almost 1,000 more yards. So he's up to almost 1,000 receptions in his career for over 11,000 yards and 70 touchdowns for the now 30-year-old Justin Jefferson. So Denver Betts was the single biggest acquisition we made this year. It gave us another stud wide receiver to go along with Justin Jefferson, and our offense just skyrocketed. Christopher Robson had his best season, 86 catches for 850 yards. Aubrey Ashley, our other tight end, had a really good year. 67 for 657. Joel Barnhart was one of our draft picks, 46. No, I think I signed him. Yeah, I signed him to a minimum contract this year, and he played all 17 games, 46 catches, 451 yards, and 3 touchdowns. Micah Davis was a bad draft pick. So, yeah, I mean, top 4 or 5 receivers all had really, really good years. Defensively, we weren't as good this year as we had been in the past, but still pretty good. Edward Bailey was, we signed him, what was it? Did we sign him to a 500? Was that one of the 500s? No, we signed him to a 3-year, $36 million contract, so $12 million a year for the 26-year-old former number 7 overall pick. 86 overall, 130 tackles. Joseph Cochran, our stud strong safety, 98 tackles. J.C. Horn, we brought back 90 tackles. Myles Garrett, 14 sacks, 11. Look at Omar Sumner, 18 sacks, 26 hurries, 11 knockdowns. He has been just a monster since we picked him 9th overall. Look at these sack totals: 12, 10, 18, 15, 14, 16, 18. 103 sacks in 7 seasons for Omar Sumner. He's now 28 years old. So having him and Garrett on opposite sides are just causing all sorts of issues for opposing quarterbacks. But yeah, I mean, points per game, I mean, we were 15th. We were middle of the pack. And we don't have a ton of cap space. So we may not be able. We'll have to see what happens. Actually, we can take a look at that right now. Not a ton of names on here that I'm super concerned about. Dew is getting up there in age. 30-year-old running back. He's an 85 overall. He only wants like $6 million, so I might try to bring him back as a backup. Aubrey Ashley will probably let walk, find a cheaper alternative. I would like to bring back either Straub or Montes. We picked up Montes in a trade midway through the season to sort of shore up our defensive secondary. But Straub is a hometown guy. He was our first-round pick 4 years ago. Only a 76 overall. He wants significantly less money than Montes does, but I'll probably bring one of them back. I'd like to bring Gerald Still back, 86 overall fullback. James Barnes, again, another one of a draft pick for us that hasn't really panned out. I mean, he's just not very fast. His hands are okay, but he's been passed on the depth chart. So not a lot of free agents I'm super concerned about. You can see we're going to gain, we'll probably be at about $45 million under the cap or something, $50 million under the cap. So we'll have some money to spend once we get to the offseason. Our draft this past year, we didn't have a lot of picks, but you can see, I mean, not bad. And we went heavy on the offensive line. We drafted 4 offensive linemen in the first 4 rounds. I think Wilhite was our first pick. Yep, James Wilhite was our first-round pick, 26th overall, 21-year-old guard, 79 overall. Needs to work on that pass blocking, but really good run blocking. David Conyers was our second-round pick, a 21-year-old, 74 overall guard. Same deal, really good run blocker, needs to work on pass blocker. James Bigelow was our third-round pick, a 20-year-old, 75 overall tackle. Pass block's pretty good, run block is very good. And then Richard Parrott was our 4th-round pick. So our first 4 picks were all offensive linemen, all over 70. So that was a pretty solid 1 through 4. Jermaine Farley was our 6th-round pick, 70 overall, 24-year-old. John Siles was our 5th-round pick. This was not a great pick, 62 overall, 20-year-old safety. And then we drafted a punter in the 7th round, and he was on the practice squad all year. So that was our draft. I was really happy about the first 4 picks. So this year, I don't know. I think it's probably just best player available. Maybe if we look at the team, again, maybe quarterback, we'll see what's available in free agency. I'm if there's somebody who has a stronger arm, maybe, and we might make a run at them, we'll see. Running back is probably going to be a position in need if we don't re-sign Dew. Tight end could potentially be a position in need if we don't re-sign Ashley. Wide receiver, we're fine. Offensive line, we're fine. We're going to let those young players develop alongside the veteran Brian O'Neill. Defensive tackle, we might need some help at defensive tackle. We have Joshua Hook, who we signed as a free agent. Fullerton is going to be gone, so defensive tackle could definitely be an area that we need. Defensive end, we're fine. Linebacker, I think we are finally fine with Regan and Bailey as our main 2, and then Royster as our 3rd. So we have at least 2 really solid linebackers in Edward Bailey and Roberto Regan, so maybe a 3rd linebacker. And the defensive secondary, we're fine. Cornerback, free safety, and strong safety. So defensive tackle, running back, linebacker will probably be where we focus our attention in the off season. So that's it for the Vikings. 11-6, made it to the NFC Championship game. Not able to lock it down, but still a good season nonetheless. Let's go to the Minnesota Wild, because we don't always do the Wild first. So you can see we took a bit of a step back with the Wild this year. 49, 29, and 4. Good for 102 points. And second place in the Central behind the Avalanche. And you can see once again, knocked out in the first round of the playoffs by the Blackhawks for the second straight season. I had to make some moves. We were financially up against it this past year, so I had to make some moves. So if we go back and look, we traded Alexander Campbell to the Calgary Flames for a pair of second-round picks. We had to get out from underneath some of these contracts. So Campbell to Calgary for 2 second-round picks. The Vancouver Canucks, we traded Adam Beckman, Marvin Lebda, a 2-star 19-year-old, and a third-round pick to the Canucks for a pair of first-round picks. So we got 2 firsts and 2 seconds for Beckman and Campbell. And we went a little younger and a little cheaper. Beckman had a pretty good season in Vancouver. Campbell had a pretty good season in Calgary. So we made those 2 deals, and then Capo Caco fell into our laps. He wanted like $9 million a year when free agency started. Nobody signed him. So I went and I talked to him in September, and we got Capo to a 3-year, $3.6 million a year contract. Just an absolutely ridiculous contract for the 29-year-old Caco. And he put up a good year. 68 points, 32 goals, 36 assists for us. So we gave up, that was about $11 million in salary. Got 2 firsts, 2 seconds, and Capo Caco for $3 million. Did we make any other deals? No. Yeah, we didn't do a lot at the trade deadline because, again, we didn't have a lot of money to spend. We did sign Miro Heiskanen as well. So that's why we were up against it. I went big defensively. So we have Miro Heiskanen and Cale Makar as our 2 main defensemen right now. So once I signed Heiskanen, we were like $8 million over the cap or something like that. So I had to make some moves to do so. So our main 2 defensemen right now, Miro Heiskanen, Cale Makar, that is our top pairing. From a statistical standpoint, we picked up Philip Ekberg on waivers. He was on waivers at the beginning of the season. We picked him up. He made him our number 1 center, our number 1 line center, and he put up 76 points in 81 games as a 24-year-old, and we signed him to a 3-year contract extension. So I don't know why he was on waivers. I'm not going to complain about it, but he's now our number 1 center, and he's a stud. Capo Caco, 68 points. Marco Kasper had a really good year, 66. You can see not a lot of high point totals, but I think we had 17 players with at least 10 goals. There's Kaprizov. Got hurt. Starting to slip a little bit. He's now 33 years old, but 43 points in 48 games. We may have a decision to make with Kirill in a couple of seasons. We do have a decision to make with Cole Caulfield. His contract is up. And he had another 30-goal season. And he wants 6.2 for 5 years with a no trade clause. I'm not against it. I'm not against that. We can afford it. You can see we have remaining cap if we make that deal. So I'm not against it. But it's something I'm going to have to think about before we flip over to July 1st. That's really the only contract I'm super concerned about. The rest of these guys, I think we're just going to let... Perron, I want to re-sign. I want to re-sign Jaden Perron because of the defense. So let's look at... He wants 2.5. So let's start with 2. I do definitely want to re-sign him. 2.4. Yeah, he's not coming down much, and I didn't think he would. This is sort of that bridge contract. So, all right. 2.3 for 3 years for Jaden Perron. I like him. He's never going to score a ton of points, but I like the 15 defense. You know, we need more solid defensive forwards. But Price can walk. Jirasek, I think we're going to let walk. Jovanik, we're going to let walk. Whitelaw, we picked up off waivers. Buck will let walk. So Caulfield is the only other one. So that's something I will have to think about. So yeah, you can see goaltender-wise, split really right down the middle. Ivanov actually had a better year, much better year than Wallstead did. 28, 16, and 2, 2.89, and a 9.19. Wallstead 21, 13, and 2 with a 3.31 and a 9.06. That's not good. So yeah, offensively, oops. Offensively, we went really young. Yeah, our top line of Ekberg, I think it's Ekberg, Caulfield, and Kaprizov. Is that how I had it set? Oh, must have been Kako. Yeah, they're all international now. So it's Kako, Ekberg, and Kaprizov on that top line. So very balanced scoring. Again, no 100-point scorers this year. Nobody even who scored 80. But 4 lines. We rolled 4 lines pretty much all year long. So if we do sign Caulfield, we're not going to really have any money for free agents, which is fine. I mean, I don't know what we would add. We are pretty loaded offensively now. We're super, super deep. Depth charts. Who was our... And I'm going to do this every year. I just can't remember. Kuznetsov, we picked last year with our number 1 pick. He got some playing time this year. Was it Engstrad? No, we picked him back in 2028. Yeah, every year I'm going to do this. We picked him up in a deal. We got him in a deal. I may have been the German. Yeah, there it is right there. Florentine Lang, right now playing for Geyer Mannheim, 19-year-old, 6 foot, 207-pound forward. Picked him 28th overall. Mock draft had him going number 3. We picked him at 28. And he looks okay. The consensus is that he's a 4.5-star player. We had him as a 2.5, 3-star, but pretty solid offensive ratings, physical ratings, mental ratings for a 19-year-old. Probably give him another year in the minors. So that was our number 1 pick. I believe we drafted a goalie as well. That was a 2028 pick. I want to say we went heavy on Germans this past season, if I remember correctly. I think we took like 3 Germans in the draft this year. But you can see this upcoming draft is pretty loaded for us. We have 2 firsts and 3 seconds, so it'll be a nice opportunity to sort of refill the coffers a little bit. Where did the Canucks finish in the standings? They didn't make the playoffs, so that is encouraging. 33, 42, and 7. So we're going to end up with a lottery pick. We are going to end up with a top 12, top 14 picks. So that's huge. So we should be able to refill the coffers. And again, with hockey, it's best player available. I like to go defense. I mean, you can see our defense is just absolutely stacked. We got 5-star in Cale Makar. We've got 4 in Miro Heiskanen, 3.5 in Kiwi Haru and Leslie. Jurasek's going to walk. Jovanic is going to walk. So we're going to have Makar, Nilsson, Leslie, Heiskanen, Kiwi Haru. So we are going to need a defenseman. But that is maybe a free agency thing. So that is the Minnesota Wild. And now, who do we want? Let's look at the team we won it all with. And that was, for the 3rd time, the Minnesota Timberwolves. So the Timberwolves finished 57-25. We ended up with the top pick in the draft. We had the lottery pick with the 3rd best chance to end up with the top pick. And we indeed ended up with the top pick in the draft. And we took Matt McCleary, a 6'5", 211-pound small forward out of North Carolina. You can see he averaged 9.4 and 5.2 as a rookie. We made a couple of deals during the year, and it was kind of strange because we went back in time and we picked up Craig Norwood, who, if you remember correctly, was a draft pick of ours 7 years ago. And not only did we pick him up, we traded, where is it? We traded, because he found his way. Initially we traded him to the Pistons for John Thunell and Jalen Horde back in 2026. He then was traded to the Clippers for Gary Trent Jr. This past season, we reacquire Craig Norwood for John Thunell. So we sent John Thunell to the Timberwolves, or to the Clippers, and we reacquire Craig Norwood. And we did that because of contract. John Thunell had 2 years left on his contract, $28-29 million, something like that. Norwood is at 17, and it was just for this year. And Norwood was fine. He was he came off the bench for us and was terrific. If you look at our schedule, we'll look at the postseason. So we started with the Clippers, and it was a 4 games to 1 victory over the Clippers. We then took on the Oklahoma City Thunder. We defeated them in 5 games as well. Western Conference Finals against the New Orleans Pelicans. Won the first 3, lost games 4 and 5. Won game 6 in New Orleans to go to the finals, where we took on the Toronto Raptors, who were 66-16 on the year, and we swept them. We beat them in 4 games to win our 3rd NBA title with the Timberwolves. And this team, guys, is stacked. If you look, we still have Ja Morant. Ja is now 30 years old, 26.6 rebounds, 6 assists a game. You notice the assists and rebounds are down a little bit. I'll show you why here in just a second. But we have Morant locked up long term. He'll be 34 when the contract expires. That'll probably be the end of Ja's time. But the reason Morant's averages were down a little bit was Xavier Brown. We drafted Xavier Brown 20th overall last year. And last season, he had a pretty good year. 9 points. 3.5 rebounds, 3.5 assists a game. We made him a starter this year, and look at those numbers: 18, almost 19 points a game, 8.5 assists, almost 7 rebounds per game as our starting point guard. A 96 scoring, so he finds ways to get the ball in the basket. He was an absolute stud. Then you add in Adam Gordon, who averaged 23 and 9. So our big 3 of Morant, Gordon, and Brown is basically unstoppable. Trent Means came off the bench as a backup, as our primary backup at the 1 and the 2. 13 points, 3 rebounds, 3 assists. He was terrific. We talked about Norwood. We talked about McCleary. I'm expecting more out of McCleary this year. Brad Butler was our other first-round pick this year. No, did we trade for him? Yeah, we traded him. So we traded a David Marshall and a late first-round pick, 2032, to the Celtics for Dillon Brooks and Brad Butler. And the reason I wanted Butler was his defense. You look at we were struggling defensively. He has a 96 defense. So we traded Marshall and a first-round pick for Brad Butler, who shored up the defense for us. Josh Bonner, the scoring was way down, but that was fine. Still averaging 7.5 rebounds, 2.5 blocks, and 2 assists per game. That's a lot of money to pay him, so I don't know that I'm going to keep him around. We may move him in the offseason if we can find a better option. I like his numbers, but that's just a lot of money, so we may move on from Josh Bonner this offseason. We signed Ivory Walker to the mid-level exception. He didn't really do much for us. We signed Bradley Beal to a minimum contract just to get some scoring. He didn't play much. Jamal Strong was our other first-round pick this year. 3-star, 3.5 stars. So we are absolutely stacked in the backcourt with Strong, Morant, Gordon, or Morant, Brown, and Means. We are stacked in the backcourt. We need a little depth up front, but in the backcourt we are glorious. So I think the draft this year will be looking to go big. We're gonna lose Norwood. So we'll need to come up with another solution up front. I'll probably try to re-sign Brad Butler because I would like to have Butler and Gordon as my 4, and I think Butler can play the 5 as well. I mean, technically at 6'9", 216 he can. But I want to do something about the center position. Bonner's not bad. Defensive ability is fine. I'd rather somebody with less shot block ability but a higher defensive ability. So we'll see what we can find there. So the Minnesota Timberwolves win the 3rd title in our City of Champions playthrough. And last but not least will be the Minnesota Twins, and we will do the Twins here in just a minute, guys. Hang tight. All right, we are back with the Minnesota Twins, and in typical out-of-the-park baseball fashion, we finish with 110 wins and get knocked out it's not where I wanted to go, and get knocked out in the playoffs. We get knocked out in the ALCS by the 89 and 73 Toronto Blue Jays. So we win 110 games and get knocked out by an 89 win Blue Jays team because Out of the Park hates me. We did finish 110 and 52. Ronald Acuna Jr. just missed the Triple Crown. Just an absolutely redonkulous season. 58 home runs, 148 knocked in, hit 331, put up 10 WAR, a 192 OPS plus, almost over an 1130 OPS. I mean, he was just crazy good. Crazy good for the now 32-year-old Ronald Acuna. Shohei Ohtani with a fantastic second season for us, 4.3 WAR, 41 home runs, 136 knocked in. He picked up his team option, which is terrific, for $10 million. So we have him signed super cheap next year. Another good year for Royce Lewis. Power was down a bit, but still 293, still put up 5 WAR. Another really good season. Jordy Parks came up, one of our first offensive draft picks that have come up and done anything. And he had an okay season as a rookie, 94 OPS plus 2.1 WAR. Expect more out of him next year. We traded for Khalil Watson in the offseason. He was injured in December and didn't play until July or something. But we traded Edwin Vargas, who was a 2-star, 3-star prospect at the time. Vargas and Ezra Lowenthal, a 21-year-old catching prospect for Khalil Watson. And we got Miami to eat a portion of his contract. So you can see he's making $12 million a year. 12 this year, 17 next year, 23 the year after that, and 23 the year after that. But for us, it's 8, 12, 16, 16. So we have him plugged in at third base right now. Very good defensively. So we've got Watson and Lewis on the left side, Nico Horner and Tristan Cassius on the right side. Cassius, I don't know what we're going to do with. I kind of want to re-sign him. He had a bit of a down season last year, but still at 30 home runs. Still put up almost a 500 slugging, was still 116 OPS plus. So I would like to bring Cassius back. See what he wants, though. Victor Robles in right field. His time is probably up with us. Gave us 3 pretty solid seasons in right, but he's 33 now. Connor Falefa, his contract is up and he's wrecked, so we may let him walk. But really good 2029 season for us. Maybe we can bring him back as a backup infielder. I don't know. That would be an option. So let's just do it this way, I guess. We talked about Acuna, talked about Lewis, talked about Ohtani. Antonio Gomez, we picked up in a trade with the Yankees because we needed a catcher. We gave up Luis Peccia, who was that pitcher we got from Australia. But yeah, so we pick up Antonio Gomez, who's stud defensively, chipped in with a 728 OPS, 14 home runs. Jordy Parks, Tristan Cassius, Khalil Watson. And then you got the rest of the team. Alan Melendez, Pash, Henry Malloy, and Andres Moya in the offensively. Offensively, we were great. Pitching staff, I think this is our downfall. And our pitching staff is still pretty darn good. You see Chase Petty, 15-5. Just another really good season. His third straight season of 15 or more wins. Almost 4 WAR on the year. We signed Lucas Giolito. He went 11-8 with a 4.01, give us 3 WAR. He signed for this year, or I guess technically next year at 19.4, and then the following season's a team option. We ended up trading Trevor Rogers to Arizona. You can see his numbers just fell off. He was 5-2 with a 5.55 ERA in 13 starts for us, and we ended up trading him with a bunch of like 2-star, like 1-star, 2-star prospects for Juan Pichardo just to get him off the books. So yeah, the injury sapped whatever was left in his career, which was unfortunate. So yeah, Petty, Giolito, Silvas, and Caden Campbell. Silvas won the reliever of the year last year. We made him a starter this year. He gave us almost 3 WAR as a starter. Caden Campbell had his best year as a starter. But we need an ace. We need an ace. We have a very, very good bullpen. And we've got 4 really good starters, but we need an ace. I mean, that might be Max Cibrian when it's all said and done. Actually, that's set on OSA. There is ratings for us. So he'll start next year in AAA, and he could be up sooner rather than later, but I don't want to anoint a 22-year-old as the ace. So we may need, and we do have some money, and we have some money because our market size looks like it increased. I haven't looked at all the emails yet, but fan loyalty increased, so that gives us a bump. So we have a lot of money. I think part of that, though, I saw, what did I just see? Yeah, Green, Cassius, and Royce Lewis all voided their contracts. So we got to bring Lewis back. We'll see about Cassius. We'll see about Green. But Lewis is probably going to eat, 20 to 25 million of that 55. So we still will have somewhere in the vicinity of $30-ish million to spend. And what do we have for an option? What do we have for Corbin Burns? There you go. There's our ace, assuming he becomes a free agent. That is our ace. I mean, he's 36 years old, but he has shown no signs of slowing down. 8.9 WAR as a starter. So I would be happy to give him $30 million a year for a couple of years. So we'll see what the option holds there. Carlos Rodon, maybe as a backup option. I mean, he's wrecked, so I would be hesitant to give him that kind of money. But yeah, Corbin Burns will be our main target in this upcoming offseason. From a draft perspective, how did the draft look? Our first pick this year was Kevin Butler, a 21-year-old, 6'4", 205 pounds. Control needs to develop, but, I mean, that looks pretty good. 70, 47, 57, a 94 fastball. Already throws 99 to 101. Our second-round pick, Kevin Richmond. I needed to make him a... Why didn't I do that? Stupid me. We're going to make him an outfielder. Action, set position. Make him a right fielder. There you go. He becomes a 2.5 star. Hopefully he can increase that range. We didn't have a third-round pick. Our fourth-round pick was Ben Quick. Looks like a pretty kind of, typical low ceiling, high floor kind of starter. So hopefully he'll develop. Our fifth-round pick, Alex Celia, defensively just outstanding. Probably a third baseman with that range, but still pretty good. Stang, outfield. I mean, he could play any outfield position with those ratings. So we went heavy into defense with this draft. You can see another one here in Bruce Ramirez. So not a great draft. Ballard looks like he could be pretty good. Quick might be all right as well. So, yeah, so for the Twins, offensively, I'm just curious. Let's look and see what he wants. Holy crap. All right. So we could probably talk him down. We're going to have to talk him down because I need to make a run at Burns. So we'll see what the offseason. If my offseason ends with re-signing Royce Lewis and Corbin Burns and then not being able to re-sign Tristan Cassius, I'm fine with that. We can make that work. But that's going to be my goal. Can we bring in Corbin Burns, and can we re-sign Royce Lewis? That's going to be my offseason. If that works, I'll consider it a success. So we are through 9 seasons. We have 4 titles, 1 by the Twins and 3 by the Timberwolves. So we have to win 9 titles now in the next 9 seasons. And I think we're set up in all 4 of our leagues. We're set up to be consistently successful here over the next decade. So I still think we can do it, but we got to start winning titles at a higher rate here. So, so that's gonna do it for episode 9 technically of City of Champions. Let me know your thoughts. I appreciate you watching, guys, and take care. I'll talk to y'all soon. Bye-bye.